In this class, we will learn about the Ajax. Ajax is the most important part of the JavaScript. Okay, so what we can do with Ajax and what is Ajax? So with Ajax, we can read data from a web server, or we can update a web page, or we can send data to a web server. Okay, so how can we write Ajax? Okay, so what is the full form of Ajax? The full form of Ajax is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Okay, so here first, for understanding Ajax, we'll make another file over here. First, here we'll give our topic as Ajax like this. Okay, so it stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Okay, so this is the full form of Ajax. So what is the syntax of Ajax and how we write this? Okay, so first we'll see the syntax and later on we will go line by line and I will explain everything. Okay, so what we'll do, first we'll make a button. Okay, so by clicking on that button we can perform certain execution. Okay, certain function. Okay, so what we do, we'll make one button over here. Okay, suppose button. Okay, and here I will give an event over here, apply an event that is on click, and will use execute some function over here. Okay, you can give any name. I will give here my function over here. Okay, and I will give any name. Okay, so click me like this. So I am assigning a button in this index.html, and on clicking this button we are executing a function. Okay, so first we'll change the path over here, index 25, and then we'll go to our index25.js. Okay, so now what we want is, we want to execute that particular function, we want to call that function. Okay, function, and the name is my function over here like this. Okay, and now inside this what we want is, we want to fetch data from a server. Okay, through Ajax. Okay, so what is the syntax of Ajax? So what we will do is, I will simply write the syntax and I will explain line by line. Okay, variable x http equals to new XML http request like this. Okay, so we are creating an object and we are saving this into this variable x http. Okay, now on the next line we'll assign some method to it, that is on ready state change like this. Okay, then inside this we will execute a function. Okay, so we'll write function over here, some function, and inside this we will check some condition over here. Okay, so what is the condition? So I'll check this dot ready state equals to 4 and this dot status equals to 200 like this. Okay, so I will explain one by one. Okay, I'm just writing the whole syntax over there and then I will explain one by one. So here we are giving a condition. Okay, if this condition satisfies, bring the next line. Okay, execute this particular function over here. If this condition is satisfied, like, go to the next line. Okay, so here what we'll do, will assign an empty div over here. Okay, so here we'll assign an empty div. Inside here we'll get our data from the server. Okay, so this is empty. We will get the data from the server in this demo id over here. Okay, in this div. So here we'll target that particular div with the help of document dot get element by id, and the id name is demo dot inner html like this. And here what we'll write is we'll write this dot response text like this. Okay, so here we are getting that particular information that is coming from the server into this div. Okay, that is demo id. Now after this we have to open the connection. Okay, so we will take our http variable over here and I will open the connection. Okay, so it will take three parameters over here. That is which method will apply, that is the get method, and from where, which file we want to fetch the information. Okay, suppose test.txt or php anything. Okay, so I will take a text file over here and then I will give the third parameter as true over here. Okay, like this. So I will explain everything over here. Okay, so then in the next line I will send the send it to the I will send the response over here. Okay, by using the http dot send. Okay, so this is the basic syntax of Ajax. Okay, so this code is kind of the compulsory. You can uh, this line of code you have to write. Okay, when you use Ajax, these lines of codes are important. Okay, so in order to understand more clearly, okay, we'll go to W3 schools. W3 schools here. Now we'll go to our Ajax part. Here you can see the same code over here. Okay, you can see this code over here. Okay, so what we can do with Ajax and how Ajax works. So here you can see it is written Ajax allows web pages to be updated asynchronously by exchanging data with a web server behind the scenes. This means that it is possible to update parts of a web page without reloading the whole page. What it is telling is when we get information from a server, okay, the page does not reload. It is not necessary to reload the page. Okay, without reloading, this information comes from the server. Okay, this word here asynchronously means we don't have to wait for this server. Okay, server response. When we suppose we can give 10 requests to the server and it will give 10 responses in the same time. Okay, so we don't have to wait for the if the server waits for one request one response, we don't have to wait for the response. Okay, suppose we are sending one request, so we don't have to wait for the server response. When server will give the response, I will give the second request. Okay, we don't have to wait. We can give 10 requests in a row and line by line the response the server will give the response. Okay, so here you can see the flow chart. So first what we'll do here is we'll create an XML HTTP request object. You can see we have created an XML HTTP request. Okay, so with the help of new keyword we have created an XML HTTP request object. Then we are sending HTTP request over here. So here you can see we are sending an HTTP request. Then the server will process the HTTP request, and then it will create a response and send back to the browser. Okay, so I will give a request over here, okay, and it will process that request, and it will create a response and send back the response. Okay, then the browser will process the return data using JavaScript, and it will update the page content. Okay, here you can see an event occurs in a web page, the page is loaded, a button is clicked. Okay, so when here what we are doing is we are clicking a button over here. Okay, so when the button clicks, a function is executed over here, that is my function is executed. Then an XML HTTP request object is created by JavaScript. Okay, so we have created our XML HTTP request. Then we are sending the request to a web server. With the help of this, we are sending the request to the web server. Then the server processes the request. The server then sends a response back to the web page. Okay, so in this way, thus we uh, give the request to the server, and the server returns the response. Okay, so this is the basic flowchart how Ajax works. Okay, now I will explain line by line. Okay, so here you can see, now we'll talk about our XML HTTP request object. Okay, so this XML HTTP request. So here you can see the XML HTTP request object can be used to exchange data with a web server. Okay, means it is possible to update parts of a web page without reloading the whole page. So this line is very important. Okay, so we are getting the information, or we are getting the data from the server without reloading the page. Okay, when suppose here what we are doing is, when we are saving something, when we are changing something in this particular file, we have to reload our page continuously in order to see the difference. Okay, but when the server, when through Ajax the data will come, we don't have to reload our page in order to get the information from the server. Okay, so this is the syntax for creating an XML HTTP request. So this XML HTTP request provides some methods over here. You can see new XML HTTP request abort, get all response headers. So open, so we have used this open over here. Okay, so you can see open. Okay, so it takes certain parameters, method, URL, async, user, password. Okay, so here you can see we have given the method, that is get or post. Okay, you can see here method, the request type get or post. Okay, the next parameter is URL over here. Okay, URL means the path of that particular file from where we are getting the response. Okay, here you can see the file location. So we are having a test.txt, we haven't made it yet. Okay, so here you can see we are giving the location of test.txt, and then asynchronous. Okay, so it is, we are telling the XHTTP object that it should be an asynchronous request. Okay, it should not be synchronous. If we'll give this parameter as true, it will consider it as asynchronous. If I will give it as false, it will consider it as synchronous request. Okay, so the difference between asynchronous and synchronous is, when we are giving asynchronous request, we don't have to wait for the server response in order to give the server the next request. Okay, we don't have to set. Okay, we don't have to wait. Okay, we can give 10 requests in a row, and the server will give the response accordingly. Okay, then the next parameter is user. Okay, so this is optional. Okay, this username password is optional, so we haven't passed this parameter inside this. Okay, So this is the method over here that XHTTP provides. Okay, the next method is send over here. Okay, so we are using this send also, send method also XHTTP dot send. So these are all the properties that is given by XHTTP. So here you can see we can also send, we can also pass something, like we can pass certain thing parameters inside this send property. Okay, so it is used for, here we are using get request. Okay, so when we'll use the post request, we will pass something into this send or send property over here, send method over here. Okay, then the next method is set request header. Okay, so I will talk about everything, every method. Okay, here when we use the older browsers. Okay, so here you can see old versions of Internet Explorer 5 or 6 use an active X object instead of XML HTTP request object. Okay, so uh, this is the code for modern browsers, and this is the code for old IDE browsers. Okay, so here, like when we use this line of code over here, like this XHTTP equals to new XML HTTP request. Suppose another, if we have Internet Explorer 6 or 7, so we can write like this. Okay, so we can declare first the variable XHTTP, like here we have done variable XHTTP, and then we have to provide a condition. We don't have to directly like initialize an object, initialize this object. Okay, we have to provide a condition. Okay, so if window.xml http request, then xhttp equals to new xml http request. Okay, otherwise xhttp equals to new active x object. Okay, like this. So here you can see this is the code when you are using Internet Explorer 5 or Internet Explorer 6. So when we use this, you have to provide this condition over here. Okay, so if you have a chances to use this old IE, old Internet Explorer browsers, so you can use this condition. Okay, if provide this condition, if window.xml http request, then initialize the new XML HTTP request. Otherwise, initialize this new active X object. Okay. So in this way, we can initialize our, create our XML HTTP request object. Okay. So these are the XML HTTP request object methods, and these are the XML HTTP request object properties. Okay. On ready state change, ready state, response text, response XML, status, status text. So these are all the properties. Okay, we'll see one by one. Now, here we have read about how we can create our XML HTTP request. Okay, now we'll go with our AJAX request, how we can send a request to a server. Okay, so here we have, what we are doing is, so for sending a request to a server, we are using the open and the send methods, okay, of the XML HTTP request. So previously we have seen these are the two methods that are given by XML HTTP request object. Okay, so here we have used XML xHTTP dot open, and then we have provided a method, the URL. Okay, means the path in which we are storing the data, from where we are will fetch our data. Then this is asynchronous, whether we will provide the asynchronous request or synchronous request. Okay, so this true is for asynchronous request. Then we have our get or post. Okay, so here you can see we are passing the get method over here. Okay, so we can also pass post method. So what is the difference between get and post request? Okay, so get is simpler and faster than post and can be used in most cases. However, always use post requests when a cached file is not an option, means update a file or database on the server, or sending a large amount of data to the server, or sending user input. Okay, means post is more secure than get. Okay, when we are using the form, okay, suppose username and password, so we don't use this get method because get method is not secure. It will show your password. Okay, so if we use get method, okay, so our password will be shown in the URL. Okay, but when we use post method, this that particular password will not be shown in this URL. Okay, so this post is more secure. Here it is written, if you want to send the information with a get method, add this get method over here. Okay, like this. So here you can see we are passing something. Okay, so here in the example you can see when we request data, hello Henry Ford. Okay, so this is coming from over here. Okay, so here we are assigning something. Okay, so we are passing the in this demo.asp we are we have passed this text over here. Okay, hello fname, then lname. Okay, from there we are getting this Henry and Ford over here. Okay, this first name and the last name is coming from this file over here. Okay, so we are passing the information from the URL. Okay, so this is the get method. Here you can see from the URL we are getting the information in the get method, but when we use post, this thing doesn't happen. Okay, it does not fetch information from the URL. Okay, so with the help of this ternary of this question mark, after question mark will provide that information f name. This is the proper, this is the value and this is the key. Okay, f name is the key and this is the value. Okay, you can assume like this. So we are passing hello Henry, hello f name, and then L name. Okay, so f name is Henry over here, and then L name is Ford over here. Okay, like this. So we are passing f name and L name in URL itself. Okay. Now this is the post request. Okay. So we'll try this. We'll request data. So here you can see this content was requested using the post method. Okay, so we are getting in this information from this file over here. Okay, demo post.asp. Okay, so we haven't passed anything over here. Okay, so in get method we have passed some information, then we are getting some response. Okay, but here in this we haven't passed anything inside this URL over here. Okay, so here you can see, to post data like an HTML form, add an HTTP header with set request header. Okay, so when we pass this using the post request like this, so here you can see when we request data, hello Henry Ford. Okay, when we are using the post method, we have to use this set request header. Okay, so this is the method that HTTP provides. Okay, inside this you can use the content type, and then here you can see application, or you can use any form over here. Okay, basically generally we use JSON format over here. Okay, here we use generally JSON format. Then inside this send parameter, okay, notice I have previously discussed that here when we are using send, when we use get request, we don't pass parameter in this send method over here, but when we use post, we pass some information in this send method. Okay, so here we are passing some information to get the post that information. Okay, so we are sending this information, that is f name is Henry and the L name is Ford. Okay, so when we don't use this get method, when we don't use get post method, this post method, we don't have to use this parameter over here and this line of code over here. We simply use get over here, and inside this we can pass this information in the URL itself. Okay, question mark and this line, this piece of code over there. Okay, as we have previously did using this get method over here like this. Okay, so we are passing the information in the URL itself with the get method. But when we use post method, we have to set the request header first. Okay, then we'll pass that information inside the send method. Okay, now here you have seen how we can set the request header. Okay, so first is the specific header name. Okay, this is the header name, that is the content type, and this is the second parameter is the header value. Okay, so when we use this open method, okay, so here we can pass any file. Okay, the file can be any kind of file like .txt, .xml, .asp or .php. Okay, so it can be any kind of file, okay, with which we can fetch the data. Here you can see which can perform actions on the server before sending the response back. Okay, now the next parameter we were talking about is asynchronous. Okay, so server request should be sent asynchronously. When we want this request should be sent asynchronously, we'll provide the parameter as true. Okay, so here you can see by sending asynchronously, the JavaScript does not have to wait for the server response. Okay, so we don't have to wait for the server response, but can instead execute other scripts while waiting for server response. Deal with the response after the response is ready. Okay, so we don't have to sit ideally, like we don't have to wait for the first response to be we don't have to wait for the first response from the server, then we'll give another request, then the server will give that response, then we'll give another request. Okay, so we don't have to unnecessarily wait, we can give 10 requests in a row. Okay, so the next property that XML HTTP request object gives us is this onReady state change property. Okay, so what it does is, here you can see with the XML HTTP request you can define a function to be executed when the request receives an answer. Okay, so we provide certain function, when we use this property over here, we execute a function. Okay, this function over here. Okay, so here we are writing a condition, means this dot ready state as 4, so this has certain, this is a value. Okay, so every value has certain like meaning. Okay, 1 has certain meaning, 2 has certain meaning, 3 has certain meaning. Okay, so every value has a certain meaning. Okay, and here this dot status equals to 200, this 200 is also a value. Okay, so 200 has a separate meaning, 400 has a separate meaning. Okay, like this. So here we'll now discuss about the onReady state change. Okay, so here see, these are the properties: onReady state change, ready state, status, status text. So these are the four properties that is given by the XML HTTP request object. Okay, so here you can see the ready state property holds the status of the XML HTTP request. Okay, the onReady state change property defines a function to be executed when the ready state changes. Okay, so here when this ready state changes, okay, this function is executed. Okay, this we have this function is executed when there is a change. Okay, when there is a change in this xhtp, this function is executed. Okay, every time this changes, this function is executed. Okay, so here you can see we have two properties, status and status text. Okay, so here you can see 0 has certain meaning, 1 has a different meaning, 2 has a different meaning. Okay, so like this, when we are using ready state, so 0 has meaning request not initialized, 1 has a meaning server connection established, 2 request received, 3 processing request, and 4 has request finished and response is ready. Okay, so we are giving this value over here, means the request is finished and the response is ready. Okay, and then we are providing the condition as status as 200. Okay, 200 means okay, means the connection is ready, means the status is okay. Okay, no problem is there. Then we have our 403, that is forbidden. Okay, so some error is there. 404 means page not found. Okay, so there are various messages and there are various values of that. Okay, so here you can see we have a list. Okay, so 100 means continue, 101 means switching portals. So here you can see various values and their meanings are given. You can go through all of these. Okay, so here we are checking the if this dot ready state, this refers to this xhtp over here. Okay, because this is the owner actually. Okay, here this refers to this xhtp because we are initializing, we are creating this xml http request object and we are storing it in this variable. Okay, and this has the all the properties and the methods. Okay, so these are the properties. This dot ready state means these are the properties of the xhtp. Okay, so you can use this dot ready state, means the server request is ready. Okay, means the response is ready, like this here, request finished and the response is ready. Then and provide the this dot status as 200, means the status is okay. Okay, so here you can see every time when we make some changes in the ready state, this event is triggered 1 to 4 times. Okay, like this. This on ready state is event is triggered 4 times, one time for each change in the ready state. Okay. Now here an example is given with a callback function. Okay. So what is a callback function? Callback function is a function that is passed as a parameter to another function. Okay, to be used later. Okay, so here you can see we are passing this C function as a parameter. Okay, so this is basically a function that we later use. Okay, here you can see what we are doing is we have first created a button. Okay, this button, on clicking we are executing a function over here. Okay, and inside that function we are passing two parameters. Okay, one is the url or the path of that particular file from where we are getting the data, and then we are passing a callback function. Okay, so here we are passing a function in the parameter, so this is called a callback function, and from here it is called. Okay, here you can see this function is called from here. Okay, so this is called the callback function. Okay, so it is passed as a parameter to another function. Okay, so what we are doing is we are calling this function over here url. Okay, so this is the url and this is the function. Okay, so we have to pass two parameters because we are passing two parameters over here. Okay, so when we execute that function, we are passing two parameters. So here we are calling this function, sorry, here we are calling this function, so we are passing two parameters. So here when we execute this function, so we have to, it is necessary to pass two parameters. Okay, so here we are initializing the XML HTTP request. Okay, then we are writing our code. If any change happens in this XHTTP, execute this function. Okay, execute this function if any change occurs. Okay, so here we are providing a condition. If this dot ready state has a value of 4 means the server response is ready and the status is okay, then execute this function. Okay, this C function is, C function refers to this function over here, that is this function, my function, and here from here it is executed. Okay, so we are calling this function from here. Okay, so here you can see we are providing this means XHTTP. Okay, so XHTTP refers to, here we are referring to XHTTP, that is this. Okay, because it is the owner actually. Okay, so here we are calling this function, executing this function, and from here we are calling this function. Okay, so what we are doing inside this, we are simply getting the response text. Okay, so first we'll click on this button and see it completely changes our layout. Okay, so this information comes when we reload this. Previously we have our the XML HTTP request and a button. Okay, but when we click on this button, this piece of text appears. Okay, so this is coming from this file over here, ajaxinfo.txt. Okay, so here we are executing a function and we are passing, in order to access this XHTTP. Okay, we have to pass the XHTTP as a parameter. Okay, so we can't access XHTTP from an outer function. Okay, so in order to access XHTTP, we are passing XHTTP as a parameter in this function. Okay, so we are storing it inside this empty div. Okay, and the response that is coming, we are storing that particular response in this demo means this div. Okay, this is the response. In this way we get the response xhttp dot response text. Okay, so this is the response over here. Okay, this response text. So from the start I will explain what we are doing is we are executing a function that is load doc. Okay, then inside this we are passing a parameter that is the path of that particular file from where we are getting the information, this data over here, and then we are passing a callback function. Okay, so this callback function we are executing here. Okay, so here what we are doing is we are storing, we are targeting, first we are targeting this div id. Okay, demo id, and then inside that we are like accessing that particular information that is inside that file. Okay, so how can we do that? For doing that we have to get access of the xhttp object. Okay, so here this is the outer function, we don't have access of this xhttp over here. Okay, so we don't have access of this xhttp, so we are passing this as a parameter over here. Okay, so we are passing this xhttp as a parameter, and here we are using this xhttp dot response text. Okay, so here we are executing this function, and from here we are calling that function. Okay, so we are giving a random name, that is C function over here, and this refers to xhttp. Okay, so this is the same function over here. Okay, so the name is different, but this function is passed as a parameter over here. Okay, so this is the URL, and this is the function, my function, and this is the same function over here. Okay, C function. So this has two parameters. So it is necessary when we execute this function, we have to give two parameters. Okay. So we are calling this function from here. Okay. So this is the basic layout, basic syntax, how we can use the Ajax. Okay. So this is kind of lengthy because we are using a callback function. When we use a normal function, this is the basic syntax of Ajax. Okay. So here you can see we have two properties, that is response text or response XML. Okay. So it is used for getting the response data as a string, and this is used for getting the response data as XML data. Okay. So now these are two properties how we can get the response. Okay. These are the two methods of XHTTP, that is get response header and get all response headers. So this get response header, it gives a specific header information. Okay. And this get all response headers gives all the header information. Okay. So this is the basic difference between get response header and get all response header. Okay. So here we have talked about response text. Okay. So this response text gets the response in the text as a string, and this response XML gets the response data as XML data. Okay. So this is the basic basic difference of all these methods and properties. Okay. Here you can see if we give here get all response headers, what we'll get as a response. Okay. Here you can see it gives all the header information. Okay. So here we are outputting this get all response headers. Okay. And here we are only passing the get response header, that is the last modified. Okay. So it will only give the last modified header. Okay. So this is the basic difference of all response headers. This is these are all of the headers. Okay. So it is returning all the headers. It is getting all the headers, and here we are passing only the last modified header. Okay. So we are outputting only the last modified header over here. Okay. So it is only outputting this header, last modified header over here. Okay. So we have seen how do we get a response from our another file. Okay. Suppose it's PHP file or TXT file. Okay. So with the help of this response text, we get our text or the particular data from the server file. Okay. From the server. So here with the help of this get response header, we'll get only the that particular header, and with the help of this get all response headers, we'll get all the headers like this. Okay. So here we have mentioned get response header, and here we have mentioned that particular header. So it will provide that particular header itself. Now we'll continue to our Ajax XML. Okay, so the full form of Ajax is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So XML is not used in regular basis. Okay, now JSON comes into play. So this when here will not use XML, we will use JSON. Okay, so how do we use JSON and how do we extract data from the JSON? So first we will know how do we write the JSON. Okay, so this is the JSON. Okay, so what is the full form of JSON? JSON is basically JavaScript object notation. Okay, so here first we'll study about JSON, and then we'll know how to extract data from the JSON from a file which contains a JSON format. Okay, here when we this test.txt, in this file we will write some JSON format. Okay, and from there we will extract our data that is required. Okay, So here what we'll do is we'll make another file. Okay, in that I will explain the JSON. Okay, here I will give our topic as JSON. Okay, so it stands for JavaScript object notation. Okay, just a minute, sorry. Okay, like this. So it stands for JavaScript, JS for JavaScript, and O for object, and N for notation. Okay, so this is basically a JSON. So what it is used for? It is used for storing and exchanging data. Okay, so here we will have some data and we will give this data to this Ajax over here. Okay, we want to extract data from this file over here. Okay, suppose index26.js. So from here I will mention the index26.txt. Okay, so it should be a txt file. Okay, so from there we will extract our JSON format data. Okay, and then we will output it on in our browser. So when we exchange data between a browser and a server, the data can only be text. Okay, so here we can send the JSON data to the server. Okay, and we can also do vice versa. Okay, so we can also convert any JSON received from the server into JavaScript object. So basically JSON is written in an object format. Okay, in a like this over curly braces over here. Okay, like this. Inside this, we write our JSON format. So when we are sending the data to a server, so server only understands string format. Okay, so we have to convert this object format into string. Okay, so this JSON is basically like here I will write some object over here. Okay, here we will write an object over here. Suppose name Ankit and age suppose 23, like this. Okay, so this is the object format over here. So we have written object format object earlier. We have seen how do we write an object. Here you can see in this way we write an object. Okay, so inside curly braces we give our property and value. Okay, so if name is the property of this person object and this is the value of this property over here. So in the same way here we have written our object. Now when we send some data to a server, the data only understands the JSON format. Okay, so it only understands text format. Okay, so this is the object format. So to convert this object, it will use one method that will be stringify. Okay, so what it will do is it will stringify the whole object into JSON. Okay, so how can we do that? Here I will store it in an object obj variable over here. So we have stored this object into an object into a variable that is obj. Now what we'll do here, I will convert this object, okay, and store it in our variable. Okay, suppose I will use JSON format equals to, so this is a variable, you can give any name you want. Okay, so what I will do, I will use JSON. So in order to stringify, here you can see we are getting some methods over here. So we'll use stringify over here, and I want to stringify this variable over here. Okay, so what it will do is it will stringify the obj variable over here. Okay, like this. So here we have stringify, we have done the stringify, means it will convert the object into the string form. Okay, so what I will do, I will console log the JSON format over here. And let's see what is the result. Okay, so I will refresh it and I will open our inspector. So here what we have done is we haven't linked actually our index26.js. Okay, so here we'll first refresh. So here we'll link our index26.js. So here you can see this is coming in a string form. Okay, so basically earlier we are writing here. I will also console log the obj like this. So I will console log the obj and I will also console log the JSON format over here. So here you can see we'll refresh it. So now you can see this is the object over here and this is the same object in string form. Okay, so this is the JSON format over here. Okay, so when we send data to a server, it and we have to convert it into stringify form. Okay, so here we are getting this JSON is providing us this stringify method over here. Okay, and we are passing this obj to that object over here. Okay, so always keep in mind when we are sending data to a server, server only understands the text format or the string. Okay, or the or string. Okay, so how do we convert the object into string? By using this json.stringify. Okay, so we convert this obj variable over here and we are converting it into this string form. Okay, so when we are sending data, always convert the object into string and then send that particular data to a server. Okay, so this is kind of a basic JSON syntax. Okay, so we'll know one more method of JSON that we'll study in our next lecture.